freedom and democracy in my country, the U.S., need protecting because we're currently in the midst of choosing our next leader, which could be also the next leader of the entire international community. But if some of these people who support these leaders gain support by restricting other people's freedoms, then there needs to be some way to correct that. Yet, if information is not open and free and people don't have access to it, then there's no way to be adequately informed to make these big decisions.
Freedom and democracy need protecting here. If anything, because Ireland knows so well what it is to not have freedom and democracy, as for years the country was under British colonial rule, and the majority of the population had very few freedoms and were discriminated against and were treated really as second-class citizens.
Hi, my name is Simon. I'm from Berlin, Germany. At the moment I'm living in Pakistan, a very beautiful yet ambivalent country. Here, freedom and democracy need protecting because the country faces a lot of problems with radicalization and beyond. Blasphemy is punishable by death, minorities are often getting a hard time, and corruption is widespread among government and police forces. Some parts of the country are held hostage by religious extremists, and the society is haunted by everyday violence. In 2016 alone, and it's March now, around 450 people got killed in terrorism-related violence. That's more than 5 a day.
So freedom and democracy need protecting in my country, Britain, I think, because although we have a fairly liberal society where freedom of speech in particular is enshrined in our laws and our political institutions, there's no reason to believe that this will be the case indefinitely. In particular, I'm deeply worried about the extent to which left-wing groups in this country have started to treat freedom of speech as a sort of right-wing and reactionary concept where it's only used to justify bigotry towards other people.
Freedom and democracy need protecting in my country because both are constantly being compromised. For the past 5 decades, the Colombian government, right-wing paramilitary groups, drug cartels and left-wing guerrillas, including the FARC, have been engaged in an armed conflict. A fragile and recent peace agreement between the Colombian government and the FARC would help the transition towards democracy, but many challenges still remain.
Freedom and democracy needs protecting in Brazil because people are still held accountable for criticizing public officials, which reveals a very authoritarian culture in Brazil.
And then one case that really opened my eyes to this was several things that the Republican campaigns have been doing, and in particular Trump, in his insulting and attacking and in effect just simply rejection of journalists. He has been able to control the kind of information that is put into the media about him. But even more pressing than that is the Obama administration currently even is the most secretive in its history, in the U.S.'s history, as in they've rejected the most freedom of information requests in the country's history.
So something that shocked me in Ireland with regards to violation of freedoms is the immunity to freedom of information requests for processes under the Department of Justice. So the Department of Justice are in charge of the asylum process and mother and baby homes, and both of these until recently were immune to freedom of information requests. The mother and baby homes still are, and that's an ongoing miscarriage of justice. The asylum process is now open to freedom of information requests, but last minute they've made it that it only applies to the present and the future. So anything that's happened before isn't open, is still kind of under wraps and secret. And this was it was quite kind of shocking how obsessed the Department of Justice is with secrecy.
A violation that took place where I'm living that really shocked me was the recent assassination of 26 members of Colombia's political left in 2 weeks. The victims of the recent assassinations were community leaders, human rights activists, land claimants, and leaders of peasant movements. It's a grim reminder of the persistent danger faced by people in Colombia who voice opinions that diverge from the status quo.
The violation that took place here that really shocked me was the Taliban attack in December 2014 in a public school in Peshawar that killed more than 130 school children. One of the deadliest and most gruesome attacks Pakistan has ever witnessed.
A recent incident that made me realise this has been the treatment of Mary Namazi. Firstly, she was stopped from even speaking at Warwick University when she was invited to speak there by the Atheist Society. Then she was heckled by a group of students at Golden University because they found her views Islamophobic. Now, she is an Iranian-born secularist, socialist and feminist. Her views are central to the politics that she's talking about. And we cannot have a climate where her views are considered to be Islamophobic before they're even looked at and debated. This is a culture that has to be changed.
One recent incident that made me realize this was in my practice as a lawyer. I realized how often courts determine service providers to take down user content simply for criticizing politicians. Even if they simply gather and reproduce facts publicly available, if they are harmful for politicians, regardless of whether they are in fact true or false.